As for most of my videos, I will be examining these two in their prime. For Asajj Ventress, I see this as being at the end of the Clone Wars. For Galen, this would be during the events of the Force Unleashed, right at the end of his life. It is important to note that all of Galen's achievements and feats will be coming from the novelization of his video game, although I will be making some exceptions, as I feel it is not a completely realistic or accurate depiction of his character's abilities. For Asajj Ventress, I will be using a canon version with Legends feats where it does not conflict. Galen Marek's training under Vader was to be emphasized not on strength or speed, but endurance. Grueling training sessions crafted Galen into a human tank. As stated in the novelization, the first time Galen dueled Vader, it had taken hours for the Dark Lord to wear him into submission. This was not through Vader injuring him, but from Galen collapsing through exhaustion. Though it wasn't the primary focus of Galen's training, speed was not an issue for the apprentice. Galen has been shown to be fast enough to deflect and evade blaster fire from dozens of soldiers, and even evade fire from an AT-ST. He moves so fast that Juno Eclipse could barely see him, and seemed to view Ramco's movements in slow motion. Galen was the product of almost a lifetime of cruel training, something that would pay off in his many fights. Asajj Ventress would become noted as an impressive physical combatant. She was as fit as she could be for a near human, which was further taken by her use of physical augmentation. She may not look like much, but she proved to be strong enough to overpower General Grievous on at least 2 occasions. During her fight with Anakin Skywalker on Yavin 4, she was able to move a stone column off of her with a single hand. During the end of the duel, she blocked stone-breaking attacks from Skywalker with one arm. In the category of durability, Ventress had shrugged off getting slammed through a solid stone wall by Anakin in their previously mentioned fight, and getting repeatedly thrown around by the telekinesis of Savage Opress. Asajj's speed allowed her to avoid rockets and even take down 3 battle droids in seconds without the use of her lightsaber. Asajj matches Galen's speed and can contend in terms of strength, but Galen's constitution gives him the edge in the category of endurance. Asajj may be able to keep up with Galen, but Marek has continued to keep fighting even after getting cut with a lightsaber as seen in his fight with Shakti. The two are evenly matched in terms of speed and strength, with Ventress being slightly faster and possibly stronger. Both can fight for long amounts of time, but in a marathon match, I'd favor Galen. Both have also shown proficiency in hand-to-hand combat and the use of physical augmentation. I find each has a counter to what the other is bringing to the table. However, I feel Starkiller's inhuman levels of durability give him the edge over Asajj. Galen Marek receives the edge for his physical abilities. Galen Marek is probably one of the most versatile Force users of all time. He uses telekinetic pushes to send blaster-wielding combatants flying with little effort, his proficient use of lightning to off-balance, mind tricks to cause confusion and disarray, and force repulse when he was cornered. Galen has also displayed enough power to blow a hole big enough for a TIE fighter to fit through in the side of a downed Corvette. Defensively, Galen would often have his force defenses broken by practiced masters. However, he was not helpless. During his duel with Vader, he would be able to deflect objects flying towards him at the speed of missiles, as well as fight out of his force chokes. Galen's most infamous showing of his use of the Force would be his redirection of an already crashing Star Destroyer on Roxas Prime. Now, many say that his feat gives Galen the ability to do this whenever he pleases. However, this required intense focus, something he wouldn't be able to do in the middle of a duel. People often forget his tendencies to hurl small parts of the environment around his opponent, rather than displays of eye candy. I see his Star Destroyer feat as a symbol of his potential, what he could accomplish with more training and practice. Another significant feat is Galen's use of 2 the Menace against Darth Sidious. described as having achieved a type of oneness with the Force. Overall, Galen Marek combined raw power with refined skill, becoming both a powerful and versatile user of the Force. Asajj Ventress was a naturally talented Force user. When she was very young, she managed to send a fully sized humanoid, flying when she first discovered her Force sensitivity, even though she had no training. Asajj had various abilities at her disposal, but physical augmentation through the Force took center stage. She was already extremely fit as previously mentioned, but her physical augmentation was what allowed her to contend with the greatest duelists of the Clone Wars era. Ventress has also displayed enough skill in beast control to ride a Rancor during a fight with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and has reanimated deceased Gungans, although I don't see why anybody would want to do that. Although this will be a fight on even ground, it is still worth mentioning what abilities Asajj is capable of, even if it won't be applicable later on. Asajj Ventress's most viable offensive use of the Force would be her telekinesis, breaking through the Force walls of several Jedi at once, and even on occasion, Anakin Skywalker's. However, Asajj would have her own Force wall broken more often than not, as she has proven to be caught off guard multiple times, both with telekinesis and lightning. Asajj also has a possible knowledge of Force deflection, as noted in the book Dark Disciple, and when she redirected Count Dooku's lightsaber. Asajj Ventress and Galen Marek are both powerful and versatile Force users, displaying both offensive and defensive capabilities. I find them to be both indirect in their use of the Force, never attacking on a set of rails. Asajj is a powerful Force user, but she hasn't shown any feats that suggest she's as competent as Galen. Galen has more refinement, more practiced discipline. I find it unlikely that Galen and Asajj would immediately go all out with their Force abilities, but in such a scenario, I would favor Galen. He is more focused on his Force abilities than Asajj is, as well as more refined. While this doesn't mean Asajj would be instantly ragdolled, I don't feel the Night Sister could hold up for too long, as she hasn't been seen one-shotting AT-ATs and redirecting TIE fighters. By a somewhat close edge, I give Galen Marek the advantage for his Force abilities. Galen Marek seemed to have a knowledge of all lightsaber forms. Growing up, Galen would use a training droid named Proxy to learn the various forms of lightsaber combat. Darth Vader wanted Galen to mold his own style, a versatile application of the forms. Before his duel with Ram Koda, he had an in-depth knowledge of Form 3, Sarisu, a purely defensive form. Galen's skill with the form was high enough to where Koda realized he wasn't getting past Galen's defenses during their fight. Throughout his journeys, Galen used the reverse grip, a trait from Xi'an, which he used as a foundation for his personalized freeform style. Though the variant of Form 5 was meant to combat blasters, Galen used it during dueling, for unorthodox methods. Form 7, Juyo, was banned among the Jedi due to its aggressive and chaotic nature as an all-offensive form. Galen would teach this form to himself, using it to complement his defense and foundation by launching overwhelming offensives against his opponents. Galen was a highly intuitive fighter, analyzing an opponent's style of combat even before his mission to kill Ram Koda. He chose how to combat a threat on the go. Galen used Sarisu to last long enough to form a strategic counter, the unorthodox nature of dueling with Xi'an to prevent an enemy from seeking an advantage, and then Juyo, or pressing an attack when he found a chink in the armor. Galen tended to have more success with using Sarisu and Xi'an to decode a flaw, rather than attacking head-on. Instead of an overwhelming Juyo assault, Galen's success with offensive abilities came from his use in the Force. It wasn't the skin-frying effects of lightning, but the Force push to a joint.
not the physically augmented strength of overhead cleaves, but the precise stab to the torso. He may have not been a complete master of any of his forms, but his true strength came from his intellect.
Till all are one.
Even before her training under Count Dooku, Asajj Ventress was a talented duelist. I believe Kyneric taught her in the ways of Shicho and Ataru, due to the Night Sisters' continued use of acrobatics and emphasis on speed, as seen in the Cauldron during Dooku's visit to Ratatak. Asajj would possibly start to use a somewhat freeform style after her master's death, although I'm not sure how close it was to Jarkai. Her rough around the edges style may have been unrefined, but it did not stop her from standing as Anakin Skywalker's equal and briefly defending against Count Dooku, possibly the most skilled duelist of the Clone Wars era. Once Ventress agreed to serve under the Count, he would train her in Form 2 Makashi, a back-and-forth fencing style focused on balanced footwork and precision. This would even carry over to her use of the Saber Staff, her dual-wielded form. Like Galen, she would work around her opponent's guard instead of bulldozing through. This is true during one of her final duels with Anakin Skywalker, managing to scar the Jedi Knight with a shim strike when she penetrated his guard. Perhaps Ventress's most impressive showing was her fight against Mace Windu, forcing him to use all of his skills to gain the advantage. This displays Ventress's level of skill, able to contend with the best duelists of her era, such as Anakin Skywalker, Count Dooku, Obi-Wan Kenobi, General Grievous, Mace Windu, and Plo Koon, just to name a few. When facing them, Ventress often would struggle with meeting powerhouses like Anakin Skywalker and Savage Opress, unable to meet their strength head-on. Her use of Makashi didn't make things any better. When forced onto a defensive role, Asajj preferred to evade rather than take blows that would only do her more harm. Still, Asajj Ventress was an extremely talented duelist that was capable of providing a challenge to the great masters of her era, and skilled enough for Sidious to acknowledge her power, feeling that she was growing too powerful. Like the Force abilities round, I find these two surprisingly similar in their dueling abilities. Both prefer to work their way around their opponent's guard with precision rather than brute force. Both could contend with the great masters of their era. Galen has an advantage with his defensive capabilities, complementing his tactical approach, but I feel Asajj has an upper hand when comparing them side by side offensively. Both of their styles suit the way they operate, applying their application of their forms with skill and confidence. However, Galen's application of the forms were spread thin, preparing himself for a multitude of opponents. However, I feel he lacks the approach and disciplines Asajj has shown. As previously mentioned, his success against his opponents came from his use of the Force, not his dueling abilities. His use of the saber was to create openings for his Force abilities, not for overwhelming his opposition. Asajj's use of Makashi and Ataru allows her to engage enemies blade to blade with styles designed for lightsaber combat. In a purely dueling scenario, I favor Asajj. Don't get me wrong, Galen has proven he has been able to hold up against a pre-prime Vader, and has had great success with Juyo against Maris Brood. However, when it comes down to it, I do not feel Starkiller could fend off Ventress's use of dueling-oriented styles in a purely martial battle. Asajj Ventress gets the edge as a lightsaber duelist. The fight between Galen Marek and Asajj Ventress would be a showcase of young blood with power and ingenuity. This is a fight I've always wanted to see. They're both matched in ways many wouldn't expect, both having fighting styles that suit the way they approach things. They can both contend with the great masters of their era and are versatile combatants. Both are evenly matched, being able to cancel out many of each other's skills. Let's set up this fight. Let's say it takes place in the Hangar of Feet. As a final tally, I place the advantage to the victor 6 to 10. The following is a hypothetical battle of 1 majority victory. The fight would start off with Ventress on the attack. Asajj would press an early advantage, trying to work around Galen's Surisu defense. Galen is taken aback by the speed and ferocity of the Night Sister's assault. Galen would defend against her avalanche of attacks for a good amount of time, but Ventress would start to gain the upper hand. He would start to decode her as a Makashi practitioner, using Atari maneuvers every time he would send something out at her with a force. Starkiller would wait for the right moment. Eventually, Galen breaks off and sends out a force push, sending Asajj flying back. Asajj quickly recovers, but raises her head to find Galen coming straight at her. With no choice, Ventress gets back up, engaging the young adult to defend herself. Galen attempts to press an advantage with a Judo offensive. Asajj defends herself from the attack, choosing to evade whenever she can. Galen would back up his Juyo with his unorthodox use of Shien, but Ventress eventually shrugs off the pain from the force push and starts to launch a counter-offensive. The Night Sister lands a kick to Marek's chest, giving her some breathing room. Lids are torn off of crates, and wires are snapped up from the ground and are sent towards the apprentice. Starkiller evades, blocks, or redirects the various items sent his way. Ventress takes the opportunity to launch another assault. Galen parries and redirects Asajj's attack in a shield of blue light. Realizing her blades will penetrate Galen's defenses, Asajj changes her approach. This is where she'd possibly switch to her Saber Staff, incorporating physical strikes into her attack sequence. A kick to the chest, then a roundhouse to the ankle. The strength behind the strike staggers Galen, not breaking his posture, but off-balancing him. Asajj would continue to press and attack, causing Galen to send out another force push. This time, Galen sends out a torrent of lightning. Asajj blocks the attack, but Galen sends a crate the size of a chair at her. Asajj evades the attack and lands on her feet, raising her guard. Galen charges at the Night Sister, throwing out a force push, lightning, and several crates out at his opponent. Asajj evades again, but a crate manages to clip her on the thigh. The evasion transitions to a somersault down towards Galen. This time, Marek adds Shien and loose objects into his Juyo mix. Asajj is too pressed to break off, as Galen's endurance would allow him to launch a fresh offensive. However, Asajj would eventually again launch a counter-offensive of her own, and Galen finds Boss's bedmate to once again gain the upper hand. It is at this point that I feel Ventress would ramp it up, attacking with a drive that would test Galen's Surisu defenses. Asajj lands a kick to Galen's jaw, forcing it to violently close on his tongue. Galen fights through the pain, but it wouldn't end there. Using her hand-to-hand expertise, Ventress would start to attempt working around Galen's guard, incorporating physical strikes into her lightsaber sequences. Starkiller would try and create some distance between them, waiting for the right moment to send out a force repulse. Asajj would be sent flying back, eventually recovering fast enough to levitate several loose items in the air before sending them back at Starkiller. However, Galen is ready. Several of the objects are returned to sender. Asajj would be able to withstand the hail of items sent her way, but her body would become riddled with pain. Furious, she engages the apprentice with her saber staff, forcing Marek into a defensive posture. Starkiller defends himself, but Ventress is unrelenting. Galen is suddenly cut across his arm and thigh, causing his movesets to slow. Asajj feels something hit her in the side, causing her to flinch. A loose wire snaps at her ankle, sabotaging her footwork. Galen forces himself to fight through his pain and launch another attack, using the less physically demanding movesets of his unorthodox use of Shien, fighting smarter. It wouldn't be a Star Destroyer that would land on Asajj, but the use of crates, loose tools, pipes, and anything Marek would be able to hurl at her. Eventually, Galen breaks Asajj's defenses by slicing her saber staff in half. Without waiting, Galen immediately sends out a burst of lightning before Asajj can recover. It catches Ventress full on, leaving her open. Galen continues the light show with everything he has. Eventually, Asajj drops, smoke rising from her body sprawled across the floor. If Ventress survives the attack, I don't feel like Galen would feel so taxed to feel the need to kill Asajj, but he would stand over her victorious. And thus, I declare Galen Marek, the learner, the languisher, and the lover, the victor. This is the first of what I hope to be many videos on my channel. Keep in mind that this is just my opinion, and it isn't anything official. If you have any ideas for future versus matchups, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I understand this may not hold up to what other YouTubers have made, but I tried my best to present something I wanted to share with everybody. This has been the Nuisance Bird, and I thank you for watching. It wouldn't be a Star Destroyer that would land on Asajj, god damn it. It wouldn't be a Star Destroyer that would land on— Oh my— again?!